We have a problem when it comes to our shoulders and yoga. The way that we strengthen and stabilize the various parts of our shoulder in yoga is completely imbalanced and disproportionate. In yoga, we're good at strengthening the front of the shoulders. Think all of the plank and the Chaturanga actions. We're good at strengthening the arms and out to side positions. Think warrior two, sustained. Think also all the side plank variations. And of course, we have countless scenarios where we're strengthening the arms in flexion or overhead position. We have down dog, handstand, forearm bounce, headstand, and more. But where we have the big discrepancy is we lack the action of pulling down and the process of building the lats and building the bottom fibers of the trapezius. Unfortunately, this leads to a very common misconception that you can't strengthen the pulling muscles in yoga. Absolutely you can. You can incredibly efficiently, but you have to know what you're doing, and I'm going to break that down for you. It's really helpful for the channel if you like and subscribe. It just helps other people see and find this content. If you're a teacher, I want you to incorporate what I'm gonna show you into your sequences because it's gonna help your students have a much more balanced strengthening profile on their shoulders. And then for those of you that are students, please, if this feels good, if this feels appropriate, incorporate into your personal practice. Real quick, for those of you that want to go even deeper than this video allows, I have a 100-hour online training on shoulders, neck, and upper back. All of that information you can find in the links below. Those sessions start November 12th. So I would love for you to join me there. And without any further ado, let's break this content down. First, why is this so important? Well, number one, in our yoga practice, we're trying to facilitate a balanced and functional relationship in all the parts of our body. When we get better at creating more strength in the pull down action, we're strengthening two incredibly critical and overlooked components of the shoulders. Number one is the latissimus dorsi, and number two are the lower fibers of the trapezius. By strengthening latissimus dorsi, you're strengthening the biggest muscle of the upper body, and most importantly, you're facilitating much more stabilization and coherence of movements of the ball and sockets. This can make all of the movements of the shoulders much more optimal, much more functional, and it's also gonna provide you much more stabilization to the back of the shoulder, which is critical for everyone, but especially a yoga practitioner. Similarly, there are just so many things in life that are inducing tension in the upper fibers of the trapezius and weakening the lower fibers of the trapezius, that when in our yoga practice, we optimize that strength of drawing the shoulder blades down and building that lower fiber of trapezius strength, we can offset a lot of the day-to-day musculoskeletal stressors of the upper back and neck. In our work today, we have one pattern and 4 applications. I'm going to break this pattern down for you, and you can even just feel it, even if you're not practicing along. You can feel this pattern, and I want to strongly encourage you to do it at least once, even if you're just sitting in a chair or lying around watching this content. Let's start in warrior two. Take the right leg forward, set the pose up. I'm just going to cue the shoulder action of the pose so you take care of everything else. Reach both arms up overhead, and then make fists like you're holding on really firmly to a lat pull down machine or a pull-up bar. Now, against imagined resistance, start to create the action of pulling down until the elbows stop at about shoulder height. Now, once those elbows stop at about shoulder height, pause, and I want you to imagine that someone is gently pushing up on your elbows or triceps, and you're having to not just press them down from the elbows, I want you to draw down from the shoulder blades. So you're pulling the elbows down against that imagined resistance, but you're also drawing the shoulder blades down and towards each other against that imagined resistance. Keep that, and then continue that imaginary lat pull down until you squeeze the elbows in as close to your side ribs as you can. Pause. Now you're gonna feel the underside of the armpit working strongly there. You're gonna feel the inner border and the bottom area of the shoulder blades working nice and strongly there. Now finally, I want you to ever so slightly flare the back of the hands and the back of the wrists back and take the inner elbows forward, right? Now that's going to help those external rotator muscles in that shoulder cuff work even more thoroughly. Pause here for a moment. Keep squeezing those inner elbows in. Keep flaring the forearm and the back of the hand back. Keep cinching the inner elbows down. Good, stay there for another moment. Now, to come out of the pose, just relax the arms, straighten the front leg, and pause. For our work in this video, I'm not gonna teach the second side, but if you are doing this practice right now and you wanna kind of feel it all in your body, of course, hit pause and just repeat on the second side. Now, let's transition to crescent. But everybody, you could also be doing this in Warrior 1. You could also be doing this in Warrior 3. Now, when we do Crescent or Warrior 1, we want to be even more mindful that we're not flaring the ribs when we do this. A lot of times the action of pulling down also incorporates people pushing the front ribs forward and overarching the back. So we want a little more anterior core engagement to offset this tendency to flare the ribs. Before we focus on the shoulders, take a moment and just gently draw the front ribs in. I like to pretend that I'm trying to gently move the front ribs away from the shirt. Like I don't want the front ribs to touch the shirt. As that happens, draw the hip points slightly up. So you're drawing the front ribs in and down, the hip points slightly up. You're still maintaining a natural curve to the lower back, but this action is gonna give you stability in the lumbar spine and core. Now, with those arms up, make fists. Against imaginary resistance, pull the elbows down so they're about level with the shoulders. Now, as we do that, everybody, imagine that someone is pushing up on your elbows and you are drawing down with your shoulder blades. As you are drawing down with your shoulder blades, continue that motion so those elbows come in towards the side ribs. And as those elbows come in towards the side ribs, create the action of flaring the back of the hand and the forearm a little further back while taking the inner elbow slightly forward. Maintaining that action, front ribs stay packed in, shoulders are squeezing down and in, elbows are hugging in, and you can feel all of that work in the underside of the armpit and in the back of shoulders and arms. Take one more inhalation. And then as you exhale, release that side. And if you want to pause the video, take the second side, you're welcome to. If you're just watching this and kind of doing it on your own to get a feel for everything, that's fine. Now you can do this in a full version of Locust Pose where the legs are elevated, or you can just focus on the upper body, keep the top of the thighs and the top of the feet grounded down into the floor. But once you're there, once you've made that choice, instead of reaching the arms down along the side of the ribs, you're gonna reach the arms overhead. So you're reaching the arms alongside of the ears. Now, as you reach the arms forward, you rotate the arms so the palms, once again, face down. You make fists as if you're holding resistance cables way out in front of you. Then, you're gonna hold those resistance, and against imagined resistance, you're gonna bend the elbows, this time one continuous movement all the way to the side ribs. Now, your arms might not actually come against the side ribs. You're just pulling the elbow towards the sides of the ribs as far as they go. Once you create that action and you feel the work of the lats, you feel that action in the underside of the armpits, I want you to squeeze the inner borders of the shoulder blades together even more. Continue to draw them down and lift the forearms further away from the ground. You're gonna feel this in the back of the shoulder. This is so crucial. Now, exactly like you've been doing in the other versions, you're gonna create the action of raising the back of the hand, not by flaring the wrist, but by raising the back of the hand and the back of the wrist a little bit higher. So you're not doing that from the wrist, you're doing that entirely from the forearm. Raise that wrist side of the forearm, stay there for another breath. And then just lower to the floor, rest the forehead on the hands, take a nice, long, slow, deep breath. And then if you're interested, repeat that. But everybody, that is so efficient. It is so overlooked. And I know that when you and your students are practicing this, not only can you feel it, but it feels different than what we usually feel with our shoulders in yoga. Finally, we're gonna look at Chaturanga. Now, Chaturanga is way more subtle. You kind of have to do this from muscle memory because you're not going to be doing the big sweeping pull down action that you did from the previous poses. You're gonna have to rely on muscle memory so that as you lower into Chaturanga, you're engaging those same pull down muscles. Now, before we do Chaturanga, let's just sit as we're sitting. Let's reach our arms forward out in front of us as if we're in plank pose, okay? So just imagine you're laying, you're facing down, hands are on the floor, you're in plank. Now, make fists. Turn the palms towards each other. Now, you're gonna do an imaginary lat row. So instead of the pull down action against imaginary resistance, bend the elbows, bring the elbows in towards the side ribs, and pause when the upper arm is aligned with the side of the ribs. As you stay here for a moment, keep imagining those resistance cables are trying to pull your arms forward, but you're squeezing back. Good, keep that feeling, memorize that feeling, and then relax the arms. So, when we lower into Chaturanga, it's often this very passive thing for the upper back. It's active for the front of the shoulders, but it's kind of passive for the upper back. So I want you to see if you can remember and regenerate that feeling that you just did of that lat row. So from here, and you might want to do it on all fours, kind of like a mini push-up, or you might want to do it full on Chaturanga. I'm just going to teach it once. But in order to get this, of course, you want to repeat it several times to really get the feel for it in your body. So on all fours, or set up straight legs in Chaturanga, pause, and in your mind, say, I'm not lowering down, I'm pulling in. So against that imaginary resistance, actually it's real resistance now, in your plank or on all fours, squeeze the mat with the fingers a little bit. As you lower down, start to bend the elbows, and then create the action of pulling to Chaturanga, pause, shoulder blades squeeze in towards each other. Now from here, you can just straighten the arms to a push-up or do up dog, okay? I lied, I want us to do that one more time, okay? So all fours, pause. You can go all fours or legs straight. Before we go anywhere, in your mind, get rid of the I'm lowering down narrative, and instead, I'm pulling down. So here we go. As you start to bend those elbows, create that same action, like you're not just passively lowering down, you're pulling yourself into Chaturanga. We're stopping in this video when those elbows are in line with the sides of the ribs. Take a breath here, and then push up or back to downward facing dog. You can, of course, strengthen all of the pulling muscles really well with actual pull-ups, with lat pull-downs, with resistance cables. I'm all for it. But as a yoga teacher, when I'm teaching my classes without those accessories, I can still do a really good job of creating that strength and that activation in the pulling muscles and on the backside. And in order to do that, I just have to do this one technique consistently. Everybody, when we do this, we are creating much more balance and much more function in our shoulders, in our students' shoulders, especially if we are vinyasa or any kind of flow-based teachers. Because those other actions, pushing forward, pushing out to the side, reaching overhead, are already so omnipresent in our practices that if we start to incorporate much more of this pull down action and this flare back action, we're going to help improve the functional quality of our students' shoulders. It's really helpful for the channel if you like and subscribe. It just helps other people see and find this content. Also, everybody, if you want to go much more deeply into shoulders, neck, upper back, if you want much more support and an even more refined education, I would love to work with you. You can find all of the information about that training coming up in the link below. As always, experiment with this, see how it feels in your body, and if it's working for you, enjoy it.